no just means I disagree with the objection. And the question can go forward and the answer can be given. All right. So that's just kind of the shorthand we use. There's going to be times during the course of a trial that I have to talk to counsel over at sidebar. When I say sidebar at this point, that's going to be over here. All right. In this courtroom, this is the sidebar. And so a lot of times I'll have to talk to counsel over here because the law requires me sometimes to make decisions outside of your hearing. All right. So we do that over here. It can be annoying. I know that. But we do it over here because it's actually quicker than if we ask you to leave the courtroom, because you've now seen you'd have to stand up, file out one by one, all the way down to the jury room. The court officer then says they're all in the jury room. Then I talk to the lawyers. Then we resolve that. You have to then file all the way back. So we found it's quicker. And so a lot of times those things really move a case along. So I apologize if we're doing them, but that's the reason we do it. And that's the reason why we do it in the courtroom. If we're doing a sidebar conference, anybody needs to stand up, kind of stretch, you have bad back. You're like, those are pretty comfortable chairs, but maybe sitting there for a while. By all means, do that. But when we're over here at sidebar, don't discuss with any of the other jurors kind of what's going on or what you think's going on over here, right? So you just want to stretch, you can. Now, if during the course of this trial, anybody needs to communicate with me about anything, just let the court officer know and they'll let me know, and I'll talk to the attorneys who will deal with any of your concerns or any issues. Now, until this case is submitted to you after my final instructions, you must not discuss it with anyone, even your fellow jurors or your family, friends, or employees. All right, so it's important that you keep an open mind and not decide this case in any way until the entire case has been submitted to you. All right, and that sounds easy at this point because you haven't heard anything. But as the case gets going, it gets harder and harder sometimes, even in the jury room. You can't start deliberating until you hear all the evidence. You can't start talking about it until you hear all the evidence, until you know the law that you got to apply. All right. We're going to allow you, as the case goes forward, to take notes. All right. And so anybody who wants to take notes, you can. You don't have to. Some people find it helpful to remember. Some people find it distracting. So that's just, it's up to you. That's your option. All right. You should know that those notes are your notes. By that, I mean, we can't let you take them home, but at the end of each day, they're collected. They're put in a secure place. Nobody reads them. I don't read them. The attorneys don't read them. Nobody reads them. At the end of the trial, they're destroyed. Okay? But just some people, if you want to do it, will hand those out.
So the judge is doing jury instruction right now. But a side note, this attorney is Kevin Reddington is his name. And he actually was the attorney for another case that we watched, and that was the trial of Dr. Ingolf Kirk, another Massachusetts physician accused of killing his wife, Katie McLean. And he was convicted of voluntary manslaughter.
They've been instructed not to talk to you. We really want you to be comfortable.
Morning,
all right. And so if you do pass by one of the people involved in the case, if they go by you and don't say anything to you, don't hold it against them. Don't think they're not being respectful. They're following my instructions. We just want you to be comfortable throughout the course of this trial. Now, another caution is during the time that you serve on this jury, there may be reports about this case in newspapers or social media or on the television. You may be tempted to look or listen. Don't do it. All right. My instruction to you is do not read anything about this case. Don't listen to anything about this case. If something comes on, turn it off. Or if somebody starts talking about it, just say you can't talk about it. And you can blame me. That's my instruction. All right. Now, sometimes during the course of a trial, evidence is presented that produces an emotional reaction. And that might happen in this case. But as jurors who have taken the oath to follow the law, I'm instructing you that the law says you must separate any emotional reaction on your part from the informational value and weight of the evidence. You must find the facts in this case based only on the evidence. All right, I may go into that a little bit later, but I just kind of wanted to remind you of that in regards to that. Don't do any research on this case. All right. If you have any questions about things as you go forward, you're not to do any independent research. You've got, as I said before, we've got 3 very, very experienced lawyers. They'll get you the information that you're going to need to come to the right verdict. All right. You can't do any research. The other thing is don't visit the scene of any place that's described during the course of the testimony. So no field trips. All right. As I said, we very well may be taking a view or to go see some of these places later on in the trial, but that's the only time you should be there. Because at that point, you'll be under the supervision of the court officers, the court, the attorneys will be there. So that's the only time you're going to be allowed to do that. Now, I think the reason for all of these cautions is probably pretty clear, but it's just we need to ensure that a fair and just trial is given to all the parties in this case. So if you follow those instructions, you'll be able to do that. In regards to the schedule, as I told you, what we're generally going to do is go start at 9. We're going to go to 11. Might be off kilter a little bit today because of this part of the procedures. Go to 11, then we'll go till 1. There'll be a break from 1 to 2. And we'll generally go 2 to 3:30 or 4. All right. Now, after saying that, as I told you, I think everybody, this is a case that we may not be sitting every day. All right. And we may have to break early on certain days. So what I'm going to try and do as best I can is give you as much notice and explain to you kind of where we are as we go through the case. And then, so that being said, we're not sitting tomorrow. All right. Something's come up that has nothing to do with any of the participants, but we can't sit. So the thought would be we'll hopefully go most of the day today, and then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. All right. As the week goes on, then I'll address you about how it looks for the next week. All right. And we'll try as best we can to keep you, up to date in regards to the schedule and also the progress that we're making on this case. All right. So that's pretty much what I wanted to address you in this pre-charge. These instructions are very preliminary. They're intended, as I said, just to acquaint you with the procedure and the framework of how this case is going to go forward. I'm going to talk to you later on in the trial in a much more detailed explanation of what the law is and what your obligations are. But I know that you're going to try this case according to the oath that we talked about that you took as jurors, where you promised you would well and truly try the issues between the defendant and the Commonwealth according to the evidence in the law. If you follow that oath and try this case without fear or prejudice or bias or sympathy, you'll arrive at a true and just verdict. I'm confident of that. And also, have confidence in yourself. All right? You can do this. The lawyers and I asked a number of questions, and we all decided and chose that you would be the people who could make this decision. So everyone has confidence in you. You should have confidence in yourself in regards to sitting on this jury and delivering the just verdict on this. So at this point, I'm going to now see if the Commonwealth is prepared to give their opening statements. Come on.
Here we go, folks.
Sorry.
Thank you, Your Honor.
These murders. I don't want to.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Cora. She had just turned 5. She was sweet, silly, smart. She loved sparkly dresses and wearing bows in her hair. She loved princesses and baby dolls. She even tried to convince her preschool teachers at the beginning that her name was Sophia because she loved the Disney character Sophia the First so very much.
The murders
Dawson.
happened in 2023.
A boy's boy. He was a bit rambunctious, but funny, full of energy. He loved trucks, construction trucks, fire trucks. And he spoke with a raspy little voice.
So
Callan.
sad.
Callan was just 8 months old.
Oh,
Always smiling with chunky cheeks, a sweet little baby. We are here, ladies and gentlemen, because they are not. They were strangled, deliberately and meticulously killed by this defendant on January 24th of 2023. One by one, she wrapped exercise bands around each one of the kids' necks and pulled until their little bodies were limp and lifeless. First Dawson, then Cora, and finally Callan. Your job, ladies and gentlemen, is not easy in this case. The evidence will be difficult to see, to hear, to process. Testimony of witnesses, family, friends, teachers, people who knew the Clancy family. People who
yes,
saw them
Winky Wonder.
regularly,
They were her
people who
children.
saw them on the day in which this defendant killed them.
She was
They're all
suffering
gonna
from
come before you.
postpartum,
And it may be heartbreaking to hear what they have to say.
and the medication caused
You'll see
manic
photographs.
psychosis.
Of the crime scene, you'll hear testimony from first responders. They're going to tell you about what they discovered when they came into the Clancy home at 47 Summer Street in Duxbury on January 24th. You'll hear
Absolutely.
evidence about the defendant during that time period, observations of her physical appearance, her demeanor. You'll hear testimony about what she was reporting to her friends and family and doctors during this time period. The list of witnesses is quite long. Law enforcement, firefighters, friends, family, teachers, crime scene investigators, forensic scientists, toxicologists, medical examiners, experts. We expect over the next few weeks that you will be able to, or will be able to present to you a clear picture of what was occurring in the Clancy household on January 24th of 2023. We ask that you keep an open mind when you're hearing this evidence, and during the course of the trial, don't forget that you use your common sense and your life experience. Those are things that you bring as jurors to the courtroom every day, and it's what's going to take you into the deliberation room at the end of this trial.
Hey,
what
Diane,
happened?
I'm so glad you're here with us.
On January
Thank you.
24th, 2023, it had recently snowed. It was in fact a Tuesday. Tuesdays were days that Cora and Dawson usually went to preschool. They attended the Learning Sprouts preschool in Duxbury, but they didn't attend on Tuesdays. So on this day, they were home. On this particular day, Cora, who had just turned 5, had an appointment at the doctor's, an annual checkup. And so the defendant brought her first thing in the morning to the doctor's. Defendant's husband, Patrick Clancy, was home and he was caring for Callan and Dawson while defendant took Cora to the doctor. Pretty normal. You'll hear and see that Patrick and the defendant exchanged text messages that morning. Patrick sends a photo of Dawson, who had just dressed himself that day and he was jumping for joy. And he sends that text to the defendant while she's at the doctor. And while at the doctor, the defendant sends a text of Cora and her little Johnny and mask to Patrick. When the defendant and Cora returned home that morning, Patrick went downstairs to his basement office to do work, same as he had normally done on any other day since returning from paternity leave. And then the defendant was charged with caring for the kids for the rest of the day. She put Callan down for a nap, bundled up Cora and Dawson, took them outside to the backyard, and played in the snow. They built a snowman. The defendant sent pictures of the snowman and the kids in the snow to Patrick when he was working in the basement, and her mom, who was living in Connecticut, who had just been there that weekend but had gone home. The day proceeds as normal. You'll hear Patrick describe it as a good day, actually. In the late afternoon, around 4 p.m., the defendant searched on her phone for kids' Miralax. She searched takeout 3V, and she opened the Apple Maps on her phone and searched the route that it would take to get from their house to the 3V restaurant in Plymouth. She searched how much time and how far it was. Now, this restaurant had been a place that the family had eaten before, but wasn't their normal takeout spot. She also called CVS and asked them about the kids' Pedialax or Miralax. And that's because at the doctor earlier that day, the doctor had recommended a laxative for Cora because she had some stomach issues. She had complained of an upset tummy at school the day before, you'll hear. She had some issues where she didn't like to go to the bathroom at school, a little bit embarrassed. So they suggested the Pedialax. So she calls CVS and she confirms that they actually have it at their local CVS in Kingston. Then she sends a text to Patrick and asks if he wants to get takeout, if 3V is okay. She didn't feel like cooking dinner, it was a long day. He says, sure. She calls in the order. When Patrick leaves the house around 5:15 that evening, everything is normal, seems normal. He sees Dawson eating chicken nuggets and green beans on the couch before he walks out the door. Patrick leaves to go to 3V, and he's going to stop at CVS on the way there. That's when the clock starts, ladies and gentlemen. The defendant knows that Patrick has to stop at CVS, go to 3V. She knows that it's about 5 miles from their house to get to the restaurant. She knows approximately how much time she has for him to go there and come back. She then takes the children down into the basement. She separates Dawson from Cora and Callan, and then she proceeds to wrap exercise bands around each child's neck and pull until they are dead. She leaves the bands wrapped around each child's neck and goes back upstairs. In the kitchen, she gets a knife, and then she proceeds to the second floor of the home. In the middle of this, she misses a call from Patrick. He's at CVS. She misses the call. She calls him right back, and they talk for 14 seconds. Nothing that she does or says in that phone call is of concern to Patrick. He proceeds on his task, and she proceeds with hers. She goes to the second floor master bedroom, locks the door, crushes up some pills, and attempts to take her own life. She uses the knife she got in the kitchen to slash her wrists and her neck. She moves the bed away from the wall, away from the window. She opens that window and goes out. She lands on the cold, hard ground. Shortly thereafter, around 6 p.m., Patrick comes home. He's got the takeout bag and the CVS bag with the medicine. He enters into the house through the mudroom door into the kitchen area, places the bags down. It's eerily quiet. He calls to the kids, no answer. He calls to the defendant, no answer. He takes out his phone and dials the number for Lindsey's phone, defendant's phone, no answer. He then goes upstairs and finds the master bedroom door locked. He opens it and enters the room, sees blood and the window open. He then goes to the backyard, and that's where he finds the defendant. She's on the ground outside that window, moaning and mumbling. At 6:11 p.m., he calls 911 for help. First responders arrive to the home almost immediately. He's still on the phone with 911 when the responders arrive, and they go right to the backyard and tend immediately to the defendant. While they're with the defendant, Patrick tells the first responders, I need to find my kids. He had asked the defendant where the kids were, and she told them they were in the basement. So when he went in the house, that's the first place he went, down into the basement. He's still on the phone with 911 when he finds each child with an exercise band still wrapped around their neck. He screams for help, and he says, he killed the kids. efforts made to resuscitate Cora and Dawson were futile, but first responders from Duxbury and the surrounding communities were persistent, and they kept trying to resuscitate them all the way to the hospital. But when they arrived at the hospital, there was nothing more that medical staff could do for Cora and Dawson. The staff at Beth Israel were able to get a heartbeat on Callan, but he never started breathing on his own. He never regained consciousness. He had no brain activity. Nonetheless, he was transferred to Boston Children's Hospital, where he died 3 days later on January 27th. The defendant was taken to South Shore Hospital and then transported subsequently to Brigham and Women's in Boston. She had multiple traumas, including spinal injuries, as well as superficial injuries to both her wrists and her neck. She is paralyzed. We expect during the course of this trial that you'll hear the defendant made claims that either right after Patrick left the house or after he called her from the CVS, depending on which version of the events she's telling, she heard a voice, a male voice, a voice that she had never heard before, a voice that she never heard again. And that voice told her that it was her last chance, that she had to kill the kids so that she could kill herself. She immediately took action when she heard the voice, with no direction or details from this so-called voice, and she killed the children. Once she killed the children, the voice stopped. When you consider this information in the course of the trial, ladies and gentlemen, I ask that you consider the source, the timing, the substance of her statements about this voice. You're also going to hear from, or you may hear from, forensic psychologists and psychiatrists who talk about what's called command hallucinations and voices that people hear before they do something. And when you hear that testimony, I ask that you keep in mind the details of what she's saying the voice told her and the details of when this voice spoke to her. Another important thing to remember throughout the course of this trial is that this is not a case about the Lindsey Clancy that sits before you today. This case is about the Lindsey Clancy on January 24th, 2023, at the time of the crimes. This was not a woman in the throes of psychosis on January 24th, 2023. This was a woman who acted intentionally, rationally, and swiftly to accomplish a very specific goal: to kill. You'll see and hear evidence about all the things that she did that day, what she did in the days leading up to this incident, leading to the murders. You'll hear her spending time with her family and friends. You'll hear her appearing to be in good spirits and doing better for all intents and purposes. On that very day, you'll hear she interacted with people at the doctor's office. She came home and took care of the kids. She talked to people on the phone and via text message. The evidence will show you she was not psychotic that day. Throughout the evidence in this trial, you will learn about the defendant being the classic overachiever in school, in her personal life, in her nursing career. She was someone who liked to control every little detail of her life, of her family's life. In contrast to pictures you'll see of the doting mother, the dedicated nurse, you'll also see a side of Lindsey Clancy that's different. Somebody extremely controlling, meticulous, and manipulative. The days were laid out with specificity. Strict schedules were expected to be maintained. Food was planned carefully. Sleep was scheduled to the minute. And in the time after Callan was born, her last baby, the family had to adjust. And by all sources that I expect you're going to hear at that trial, that summer was great. But after Patrick had finished his paternity leave and was back to work full time, when she no longer had a nanny to watch the baby, do laundry, tidy up the house, follow her schedule, when she was responsible for it all, it was hard. It was hard for her to maintain that control. It was hard for her to bond with her kids. And in efforts to maintain control, she withheld information from her husband, from her doctors. She reported serious symptoms that were inconsistent with her daily activities, you'll hear. And ultimately, on January 24th, 2023, the defendant made a calculated decision. This was a woman who no longer liked the life she thought she wanted. It was getting harder and harder to control. And when she saw the opportunity to escape, she made the selfish choice to take it and to take Cora, Dawson, and Callan first before attempting to take her own life. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a public debate about women's mental health and how the medical system treats women. This case is about this defendant, Lindsey Clancy. There is no dispute that she was dealing with mental health issues during this time period prior to the murders. There'll be medical records, medical doctors, mental health professionals that will talk about treatment, prescriptions, hospital visits. All that's going to be before you. The evidence will show that this defendant had a means and access to mental health that most people don't. And she chose to deal with her mental health issues in the worst way. She chose to manipulate her providers, seek out the quick and easy fix when she was feeling depressed and anxious. And when she didn't get what she expected, she chose an alternate route. She sought a different doctor. She changed medications after days.
Yeah, it was
She
making
disengaged from treatment when she didn't like the plan.
God almighty.
After only 4 months in treatment, she made a choice, a deliberate and intentional decision that she did not want to try anymore. And because no one could take care of her kids the way she wanted them to, she had to take them with her. Despite all the precision that she exhibited that day, you'll hear, the timing of it all, the swiftness of the killings, overcoming the interruption of Patrick's phone call, what she did not anticipate was that she would not be able to complete the act by killing herself. Ladies and gentlemen, people with mental illness commit crimes every day and are responsible for them. The fact that someone may suffer or have a mental illness, a mental disease or defect is not the end of the inquiry when it comes to guilt or innocence. It is whether a person can appreciate the wrongfulness or criminality of the conduct and conform their conduct to the law. Do they know what they were doing, and can they control their actions? The evidence in this case will prove beyond a reasonable doubt that this defendant coldly and efficiently executed first Dawson, then Cora, and finally Callan. One by one, she strangled the life out of each one of them. She did so with no hesitation, with deliberate premeditation, and extreme atrocity and cruelty. She is criminally responsible for the murders because the evidence will prove to you that she knew exactly what she was doing. She drew her husband out of the house, their father, so that she had the opportunity and the time to carry out these murders. She maintained the ability to control her conduct, conform her conduct, when she attempted to kill herself to escape the consequences. At the conclusion of this case, we're going to come back and we're going to ask that you return guilty of the murders of Cora Clancy, Dawson Clancy, and Callan Clancy, because the defendant committed those crimes.
All right, thank you, counsel. Mr. Reddington, do you wish to give an opening?
I do.
This is the man who defended Dr. Turk, who ultimately was responsible for manslaughter of his wife. They were estranged at the time, but he's had several prominent trials. It seems to
Your Honor, I might use the easel, man.
and self-care
So that the jurors are able to.
Yeah. we watched a little bit of it on this channel. Now while they're getting ready, let me tell you this. Her husband, Patrick, he is remarried. Yeah. The murder happened in 2023. He remarried at the beginning of 2026.
Normally,
He married a doctor,
we thank jurors for
a
time away from
fertility
your life,
specialist.
jobs, your family, coming to court, listening to a trial. Certainly is a service that's provided by you as citizens. But in this case, God bless you. You people are going to have to listen to some of the most horrific things. Look at some of the most horrific things. And jurors, it's a beautiful system. You pass between, as you heard Don Clerk say, you probably don't remember it, but it's old language, it goes back to Old England. It says that you as jurors pass between the government then. And she places herself on her country, which country you are. You owe allegiance to nothing but your oath, your consideration, and your time, your common sense. You bring your life experience to this trial. You render a verdict. And as jurors, take the job very, very, very seriously. You people will never forget this case. And thank you for that service. The government says that this is a situation, it's not a referendum on women's having babies and having postpartum psychosis, postpartum depression, but it sure as hell is.
It's a mental health case.
Because you're going to hear, consistent with what His Honor told you in the instructions, consistent with the obligation that the government has when they brought this charge. Tim Cruz, the DA, right in the front row, brought this charge. He knew, as did his office, the facts of this case. And he knew when he brought this charge that it was going to kill the soul of this young woman.
Wow.
And
Wow.
they would bring their evidence in front of the jury that she knows that she killed these children. We'll sit here, listen to their evidence, but I suggest to you that the issue for consideration is what was going on in that woman's mind.
She was begging for medical
You're going to
help.
hear evidence that, as the government said, Lindsey was a kind of a parent pleaser. She was a person that in school had a lot of friends, still has friends. You'll hear evidence to this day from the 6th grade. High school, college, nursing school. You're going to hear evidence that Lindsey, in the course of being in high school, she was a high achiever, gymnastics. Stopped doing gymnastics because she hurt herself and didn't like to do the backflips and stopped doing gymnastics, but she was very athletic. You're going to hear evidence that right after she had the birth, the last child, within 4 or 5 days, she ran a 5K. She was very, very, very physically fit. The life
Oh,
was
Winky, I think
such that
he is for sure.
watch what she
Yeah.
ate, watch what she did in her life as far as activities, and was one heck of a mother. She loved her children. All the things that the DA said to you about those little kids and their life and what they like, she knows 1,000 times more than what they know. And in that capacity, as a mother, daily you'll see evidence that she would decorate rooms, that she and Patrick did have that achievement of a wonderful life. They had it all.
And
They
her
met in
husband,
Boston. She was a young nurse out of school,
Her husband stands
He was
with
working
her
in
even
his-
today.
industry. They ended up falling in love. They got married, bought a nice house. And, you know, people will say, oh, they're living in this mansion. No, they're living in a very, very humble house in Duxbury that they had to struggle to pay for. That house, you will see, not from the view, because it's not enough that we have photographs. On top of the photographs, we have to have video. And on top of the photographs and the video, we have to have an auto-computerized animated display. And on top of the photographs, the video, the automated animated display, we have to get on a bus and go take a ride and look at the house where some guy and his wife are now living, that it doesn't look at all like what it looked like when Lindsey and Patrick were living there with their 3 kids. But there are videos that show what that home looked like that day, prior to that. You'll see in every room, there are things hanging on the walls, alphabets, colors, numbers, pictures of different cartoon characters, and I'm too old to even remember what they are. Movies, all sorts of toys, erector sets, trucks, all over the living room. There was no dining room. It was a large thing for the baby to be in, and then surrounded by toys. Every single room had toys in it. These children were loved and nurtured and cared for by her. She didn't want to get rid of her kids because of her selfish life, as the government indicates. She loved those children right up to the time of their death.
How
You're gonna see
strange the
there's photographs
prosecution made it so
in this case
personal.
that you will be able to evaluate that show that. Some of them might even be in the videos that the state police took. This case is a massive production by the district attorney's office. You have the district attorneys, the assistant district attorneys, the assistants to the assistant district attorneys. You have the state police crime laboratory. You
Yes,
have the
Sarah.
detectives. You have the state police, the armed men that will go out and interview witnesses and will investigate this case. You have the victim witness advocate, very nice lady, by the way, that deals with witnesses and people in a case such as this. It's a massive operation, and that's great. We should have that. But when you're considering the evidence, you consider the fact that you have 2 young people that were living this life, that were working, and Patrick, not because of COVID, not because of he just didn't want to work in an office anymore. He worked out of his basement. He worked in an office in the basement. He was there because of what Lindsey was going through.
Oh, there you go.
He was there. He lived it. And he will testify to it. He doesn't have to testify, quite frankly, and identify clothing and be distraught and placed in a position of horror in this courtroom. But he will testify to what they went through as a husband and a wife, the wife being pregnant. They had 3 kids. After the second child, she had postpartum. You're going to hear evidence that that's one of the issues that is important because that could lead to bipolar. One of the things that you don't do, which is taboo, is if you have somebody that's bipolar, you don't put them on an antidepressant, you don't put them on Zoloft, you don't put them on what's called an SSRI.
That's right.
Selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. It messes with your brain.
He's a
You don't do
good-
that, but it was done in this case. The reason that Lindsey went to the doctors was in September 2022. July and August of 2022, they were very happy. Lovely little family. September, things went sideways. And she looked for, and you heard the government saying, and remember what they say in their opening, and remember that when they prepare a case, and remember how they can point at different aspects of the case to show guilt, that show that somebody's conniving. In this case, how many times we heard she faked the suicide. Faked the suicide. Little cuts, dinky little cuts, scratches you'll hear stated in the opening statement or time of the arraignment. That she asked for a lawyer. That's rich. You're going to hear evidence that she was in her bedroom after the horrific act in the basement. And that she was up in the bedroom, that she stood in front of a full-length mirror, that she took the knife that was in the kitchen that she had taken. And when she took the knife, she cut her throat in front of the mirror. This is no fake suicide. This is her when she was brought to the hospital. She was in the hospital. That's what her appearance was at the South Shore Hospital.
Oh my God.
When she's at the South Shore Hospital, she had wonderful care and treatment that was able, against her will, to save her life. Fake suicide, little scratches, dinky little scratches. This is a photograph that was taken at the South Shore Hospital of her neck.
God. Ugh.
Photograph taken of her wrist showing the split in the skin. Photograph showing you'll see evidence of this, the bedroom floor next to the bed with the blood. Knife next to the cup. Sadly, a gift saying "because kids." You see the white residue inside the cup? That's where the pills were crushed up with leftover lemonade from the night before when she consumed that. That's the knife. This here you'll see is sleep aids. See this here, deep sleep pillow spray. She couldn't sleep. She couldn't sleep for months. More photographs of the injuries to her neck.
Tragic.
And then, in the course of the fake suicide speculation by the police, you'll see the evidence that she hung on the window ledge and, like Spider-Man, I guess, slid down the wall of the house. You're going to hear evidence that she flung and threw herself out the window, striking her head on the ground, full ground, causing what's known as a Jefferson fracture of her neck. She shattered, exploded her thoracic spine, shattered her cervical spine, the first disc, broke every rib. And the Jefferson fracture, you'll hear evidence, is not consistent with a fake suicide by any means. Jefferson fracture is consistent with Superman when he got thrown off the horse. It's consistent with people that have the tragedy where they dive into a swimming pool, as a result of which they get that fracture in their neck and they're paralyzed. She's paralyzed. She's not going to get up miraculously and walk out of this courtroom. She's paralyzed and will be paralyzed for the rest of her life. She's living her own hell. She knows what happened with those kids. And she wanted to die. When she was in the hospital, you're going to see evidence. Brigham and Women's Hospital, when they transferred her from South Shore Hospital, air flight into Brigham and Women's Hospital, and she was then given the emergency room and the emergency treatment at the Brigham and Women's Hospital. You couldn't move in that room. There was so much equipment, so many wires, so many breathing tubes, so many machines, humming, banging, clicking, and she's spread out like she's crucified on the bed while she's being treated in that room, surrounded by armed police officers. Out in the hallway, guarding the hallway against what? Anyone could guess. Guarding the hallway, guarding the room, guarding the bed, standing there. She's handcuffed to the bed. She goes to South Shore Hospital. Government speculates that, again, you see how the government is able to create what they want for facts, that she is so cold and calculating that she said that she heard voices after I brought a psychologist Dr. Zeisel into that room to see her. I had to move heaven and earth. You'll hear evidence that they wouldn't even let her have visitors. She couldn't even see her family for over a week. The cops wouldn't let anybody near her. That room was an armed camp. I had to move heaven and earth and practically get a court order to be able to get in there and see her while she's laying in the bed. And they suggest and will suggest that she said, I heard voices, I heard command hallucinations telling me to kill the kids and then kill myself, after she talked to Paul Zeisel as if he was telling her what to say because I'm the lawyer and I brought him into that hospital. You're going to hear evidence that Paul Zeisel is one of the most respected psychologists. You're going to hear evidence that he was embedded with the military in Afghanistan for years. You're going to hear evidence that he works for the government when there's a shooting involving the FBI, the CIA, or any of those alphabet soup cops. He's involved out interviewing these people for post-traumatic stress. I knew that he was the man to talk to this young woman in the hospital. When I finally was able to get into that room, into that hospital, he was with me. He did not tell her command voices. He, as a human being, gave her a cell phone so she could call Patrick. But you know what? You're going to hear evidence from a woman who works at Brigham and Women's Hospital. Saw Lindsey as soon as she came out of her coma. She is a woman that works with the religious services in that hospital. And the first thing that Lindsey wanted to know is, where's my family? And then she told her about what happened and told her about the command voices. And this is well before she ever met me or Paul Zeisel. So you have to keep focused on the evidence because it's so easy to manipulate. There's no fake suicide. And there was no plan to fake her sickness. This is a young woman that, with her husband, tried very hard to get the help she needed. She went and saw a doctor by the name of, oh, by the way, remember in the opening, the government says she shopped around for doctors, I guess, that she wanted to get doctors to, I don't know, give her drugs or something. You can hear evidence that she went online and she looked for someone that was into neonatal or post-baby delivery because she knew that she was in trouble. She couldn't sleep. She had insomnia. It wasn't just, you know, when you get up in the middle of the night because your phone's on. She couldn't sleep. She'd only get 2 hours a night, 3 hours a night if she's lucky, as time went on. In September, she went to see Dr. Tufts. Jennifer Tufts is the name of the doctor. Jennifer Tufts then gave her a prescription for Zoloft, which is an antidepressant. It's one of those SSRIs. She didn't take the Zoloft for a couple of weeks because she was breastfeeding. She was afraid to have the baby have anything to do with drugs, but ultimately couldn't do it any longer, took the Zoloft and was spun out of control. Oh, because you can hear evidence because she was bipolar. You don't give a bipolar person Zoloft, but she
Correct. 100%
You're going to see what the effect was that it had on her as that week went on, as that month drove on, and she couldn't sleep, and she was unable to emote, had no emotions, had no feelings, was unable to really react to anything, but had to take care of the kids. And as the government says, well, she was able to talk to people. She was able to talk to neighbors. Sure, you're going to hear because if they don't call them, we're going to call them. People that knew Lindsey as a mother, people that knew Lindsey, teachers of those kids will indicate what kind of a mother she was, as will neighbors, as will friends, as will people that saw her during that period of time. You're going to hear evidence from Patrick as to the effect that this sickness had on her. She was looking into it. You're going to see her Google searches. You're going to see her Google searches go on and on and on about how to take care of postpartum. What type of drugs? Can you become addicted to benzodiazepines? What about, is it possible to have a treatment, a ketamine treatment? What do I do as far as insomnia? What do I do about my thoughts to kill myself? Ways to kill. How do you kill? What do you do to kill? Government latches onto that. Oh my God, She's looking up ways to kill. Let's make that a basis of our prosecution on this case. This is not a righteous prosecution. They're looking for every single piece of evidence that they can to show some ridiculous concept that she wanted to kill her beautiful kids.
It is very common for people to Google and
woman that was a
start to
nurse.
educate
She worked in
themselves
one of the
about
best
any
hospitals
kind
in
of
the country.
symptoms they're
She
having.
was on labor delivery. You're going to hear from labor and delivery nurses that will tell you how dedicated she was. Cora was named after the very, very first baby that she delivered as a nurse in the hospital. That's where the name Cora came from. Cora was named after her first delivery. This is a woman who did nothing in her life but dedicated her life to helping people and be a good person and a good nurse and a great mother.
Good morning,
And
Brenda.
as time went on, looking like anyone else would, please help me. That's what it's all about. Give me help. And people can say, well, the government will say, God, she was able to talk to people. She wasn't drooling.
Doesn't
She
matter.
wasn't putting tin foil inside of a hat when she was going to the schools. No, she was able to talk to people. We actually have, we meaning the government, we have video of her and Patrick and the kids at the Museum of Science, and they were actually having a good time. We also have video that shows them down at Cape Cod, down the Cape with the kids, and they're in bathing suits. I guess she was fine. She put on a pretty good face. So what does she do? She goes to see, September 12th of 22, she looked for a psychiatrist. That's when she hooks up, if you will, with Dr. Jennifer Tufts, early October of 22, initial appointment. October 20th of 22, reports the adverse reaction that she was having to the selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor Zoloft. November 16th, she goes to the South Shore Hospital emergency room because she was so depressed and so maxed out from lack of sleep and so unable to emote. She couldn't laugh, she couldn't cry, she couldn't have any feelings. She was a robot.
Just like Andrea.
She went to South Shore Hospital. She was referred and engaged with South Shore Perinatal Behavioral Health.
Yes,
This was Patrick's mother.
we're alive.
This is
They are
Patrick's mother, Mrs. Clancy, who's a nurse, well-respected nurse, wonderful woman. She works at the South Shore Hospital, labor and delivery as well. She knows Lindsey. And she told Lindsey, you gotta go to this outfit here, which was the South Shore Perinatal Behavioral Health. She didn't look them up because she wanted to get drugs. She was referred by her mother-in-law, who's a nurse. She went to see these people. November 21st of 22. When she was engaged at the South Shore Perinatal Behavioral Health, she's going on one drug to the next to the next. The drugs that she was prescribed, you see here, and you'll hear evidence that, first off, Jennifer Tufts, September 15th, 22, sertraline, that's the Zoloft. Then lorazepam, October 21st, Jennifer Tufts. Then hydroxyzine, Jennifer Tufts.
God.
Lorpazan, Jennifer Tufts. Buspirone, Jennifer Tufts. Lorazepam, increase, Jennifer Tufts. Buspirone, increase from 1 milligram to 5 milligrams, Jennifer Tufts. Trazodone from another individual. Fluoxetine, 10 milligrams from another person named Julie Paul.
Another
Julie
SFR.
Paul worked at the South Shore Hospital. So
Unbelievable.
she went there to go to try to get some help from South Shore Perinatal Behavioral Health. More medications, spiraling, continuing on down.
It's an SSRI.
Pat lived this, and he will testify to what they went through. At this point, at the end of November, around Thanksgiving, she's reporting disassociation and confusion. They put her on Remeron. This is
God.
around Thanksgiving. Things were so bad at this point that her mother and father came up from Connecticut and lived with them to take care of the kids, to help, because she was walking around absolutely a zombie. She would rock on the sofa, crying hysterically, banging her head into the pillow of the sofa. Patrick will tell you what he observed with her. She dealt with her parents. Her parents were there to try to help. Is this someone that's faking because she doesn't want to be a mother anymore? The parents were there, mother and father, wonderful people. Mother's retired. Dad took pictures of high school kids for yearbooks. They did what they could. coming into December after Thanksgiving. And they went, by the way, during the holidays down to Connecticut at one point to visit with the family. But December 4th, she calls a suicide hotline seeking help. December 5th, she's evaluated by what's known as the Aspire Crisis Team. You'll hear evidence about that. December 6th, the next day, they have an appointment with Nurse Gelada. Now, Nurse Gelada comes into this action because, again, not looking for more doctors. Paul retired or left or went to another job. So all of a sudden, Nurse Paul, who was treating her and prescribing meds, leaves. Here's Nurse Gelada.
Nurse was,
She's now going to be your person you deal with. That's all. She wasn't looking for some other doctors to get additional medication.
she should have been
She
getting,
now is dealing with Gelada. They have an appointment with Nurse Gelada. And Pat goes with her because he was so upset and says to Gelada, you'll hear evidence. Do you think possibly that she's over-medicated? Do you
yeah,
think somebody screwed up? And she says it's possible. And then she puts her on more medication. She puts her on, okay, December of 2022, you're going to see that Nurse Gelada, who is now on this chart, is in blue. Nurse Gelada puts her on quietapine, 25 milligrams, November 30th. December 6th, diazepam, 5. December 7th, diazepam. December 7th, quietapine. December 9th, diazepam, 5. December 13th, diazepam. And then she goes back to Jennifer Tufts because they just couldn't handle dealing with Rebecca Gelada because she wanted to wean off the drugs. Gelada told her to stay the course. She ends up going through the December 19th, 21st, 22nd, dealing with quietapine, 300 milligrams of quietapine.
God.
Now, what happens is they then suggest that what she has to do is go to Mass General Hospital. She goes to Mass General Hospital. At Mass General, they say, well, you can do like a day program, or you can go to this fantastic program down in Rhode Island called Women and Infants Program. So she goes to Women and Infants Program. She goes down for a day. She sits there in a group with other mothers and they talk. And they look at her medication and they say, you're going to see it in the medical records. We can't really help you as postpartum, and that's what they specialize in because
It wasn't postpartum, it was bipolar mania.
because the medications can be affecting you. She was there for a day, one day. They never said anything. You're not suffering from postpartum. Postpartum, every one of these doctors and nurses knew that she was suffering from postpartum. And now it's turning into psychosis. Now as she goes through the period of time, in January 5, Aliyah Goodhart from McLean Hospital puts on trazodone, 50 milligrams, lorazepam, 1 milligram, leaving the hospital. She goes to that hospital on New Year's Eve. She and Patrick decide this is it. The two of them get in their car. Family takes care of the kids. She goes to the hospital. Now it's locked wards. She goes into the hospital. She's there for 4 days. During that period of time that she's there, she's in group. She doesn't see a doctor but once. There's no discussion of medications till the very end. You'll see the medical records. You can look at the medical records, you'll see
What did they
that
do?
her daughter's birthday was coming up and she wanted to leave rather than the 5th on the 4th. This is not a discharge against medical advice. They cleared her. They said, yeah, fine, you're okay, good. Good luck, go home. She went home and she went to the birthday party. The government will have witnesses apparently to show that she was able to socialize, like, hi, how are you, at the trampoline where they had the birthday party for Cora. She's still living in a nightmare. During this period of time, January 9th, back to Jennifer Tufts, puts her on diazepam. Jennifer Tufts kicks up the trazodone to 150 milligrams. January 13th, you've got Rebecca Gelada, puts her on diazepam. And by the way, when she was down at Rhode Island in the nurse and babies hospital, not a hospital, it was like a service. The people that were treating her for that one day reached out to Gelada to find out what's up with the medication. Gelada never called them back. You're going to hear evidence, and it's in the medical records, that when she and Patrick called Gelada
All the way.
to say, I got to wean off this. She didn't want more drugs. She wanted off the drugs.
She knew the meds were
Gelada says, stay the course. She's going on vacation. I'll see you in a week. Comes back in a week. You're going to see that now Jennifer Tufts puts her on the diazepam 2 milligrams on January 16th. Amitriptyline 10 milligrams, January 16th. Diazepam and diazepam between Tufts and Gelada. The last script is diazepam 2 milligrams, January 23rd.
Probably diazepam to try to get some sleep.
During that period of time,
adding another
you can
antidepressant.
see
Craziness.
that on December 20th and 22nd, she was evaluated at the Women's and Infants Partial Hospitalization Program in Rhode Island. December 30th, she returned to Mass General Hospital Emergency Room. December 31st, that's after Mass General told her to go to the hospital, you can go to McLean. New Year's Eve, December 20th of 22, they were admitted to McLean Hospital for psychiatric treatment. January 6th of 23 was post-discharge follow-up appointment with Dr. Tufts. January 10, 16, and 23, appointment Dr. Tufts, Dr. Tufts, Dr. Tufts. Day before the killings, Dr. Tufts. These are the medications that she was on, that she had filled, that she took, that she didn't take, and apparently, according to the opening statement by the government, was manipulating the doctors, not telling the doctors. She told them that she was suicidal. She told them that she had suicidal ideation, and in December, to his and her ever dying regret, told Patrick in the presence of her mother that she was having psychosis thoughts of hurting the children. This is a woman that did not get the medication, did not get the medical treatment that she so deserved. This is a woman that was suffering from psychosis at the time that she went down to that basement. She had no
100%.
motive. She loved her children. She intended to kill herself. She didn't fake that. Threw herself out the window. Goes to the hospital. You're going to see that when she's in the hospital, they said to her, you want to, what do you call it, a DNR? Do not resuscitate her. Without absolutely did not want any DNR. Didn't want to be resuscitated, wanted to die. To this day wants to die. That's what we're dealing with on this prosecution. So you're going to hear from witnesses. It's going to be emotional. And thank you for your service.
Incredible. Incredible, isn't it? Absolutely incredible. Incredible.
All right, members of the jury, we're going to take the morning recess at this time. All right, I'm going to ask you to go out. Again, don't discuss the case. We'll be back here probably about 15, 20 minutes, and we'll begin with the Commonwealth's case. All right, so we'll be in recess at this time.
Court, all right. Jury, this way, please.
Just terrible. Just terrible. So, yeah, okay. So there are many people who are just, they can never entertain the idea that once charges are brought, that there could ever be an innocent person. We've entered a period of time in our society for some reason where, you know, we're letting the police do the investigations. The prosecutor makes a decision whether to charge, and then everybody says, oh, that guilty. Don't even need any information, don't need to know anything more. But is that really the type of court system that we have, that we live under? The reality is that there are many cases every year that are overturned, murder cases that are, the verdict is overturned, people go free because of DNA evidence and all kinds of new evidence. We have seen some very strange behavior coming out of Massachusetts government. Their prosecutors, their judges in the Karen Reed cases were very, very strange. The police that were involved in investigating the Karen Reed case, they seem to be like the corrupt cops in a Hollywood blockbuster. Like they were very stereotypically just unprincipled, right? They resorted to terrible things to try and get Karen Reed convicted. So I think right there on the surface, for me personally, this case leaves me with a bad taste in my mouth. I definitely believe this is a case where the prosecutor got it wrong. If you're looking for someone to hold accountable for the lives of these children, if you need there to be a bad guy, your bad guy is the medical establishment. Did you listen to the lists of outreach that this woman made to try to help herself? She started by Googling. She's a smart, educated woman. She's a labor and delivery nurse. She can certainly Google symptoms and read about medications and have the ability to understand that. So she's reading these things, wondering, what's wrong with me? What's happening to me? Now, I can tell you this. If this were someone that I knew, this woman, if she was someone that I knew, the very minute that she said, well, they prescribed Zoloft and I'm not sleeping and now I'm having this activation, I immediately would have said, you must see the doctor today. And do not take any more of that medicine until you do talk to the doctor. And the doctors that I work with, the doctors that I know, the doctors would immediately have said, okay, you're coming off of all the medication. We've got to let your body reset and get back to baseline. So we want all of it gone. She also would have been tested for serotonin levels, serotonin syndrome. And in maybe not the first outreach when they initially prescribed the Zoloft, but certainly by the time she was going to the emergency room and then the Women's and Children's Hospital, when that madness started, the doctors I work with would have immediately put her in the hospital so that she would be in a protected and controlled environment. And I feel a bit angry, not angry like growl, I'm so mad, but angry like indignant that it was so dismissed as postpartum. It's just postpartum, right? That's what you hear. And what is the standard treatment? Sarah knows this. What's standard treatment postpartum? Yeah, Zoloft. That's number one. Okay. But anyone who works in mental health, they should know this. Maybe in this case, Tufts and her nurses didn't know this, but anyone I know and I work with definitely knows. When you start an SSRI with anyone, including people that are having postpartum, when you start that SSRI, there should be frequent contact, and I'm talking about face-to-face, looking your patient in the eye. There should be frequent contact for 1 month after they start this SSRI. Why? Who knows why? Yeah, because SSRIs are notorious for triggering manic episodes. We know that it's a real thing. It's not like, oh, it's a rare side effect. No, hell no, it is not a rare side effect. We fully understand that if the doctor makes the decision to start you on an SSRI, that's where I kick in to the equation. And now I'm meeting with that patient like once, maybe twice a week to start. If it looks like I'm seeing, like if somebody comes in and says, oh my gosh, I feel so much better. I had energy. I was able to go to the grocery store. Immediately, my training is going to kick in. And I'm going to say, wait a minute, hang on, sister. SSRIs do not work that fast. You're not going to take an SSRI and suddenly have all kinds of energy and be able to go to the grocery store. That isn't the way it works. And if that is the person's experience, then write there, that person is on my radar, that we could be looking at potential undiagnosed bipolar. I'm going to reach out to her doctor and tell them what's going on. And then I'm going to start having contact with that patient twice a week or 3 times a week. But one of those contacts might just be a phone call, right? So there'll be 2 face-to-face meetings and then a phone call, but I'm going to have eyes on them like once every 3 days, if that makes sense. So, and you know, the psychiatrists, the doctors that I work with, they answer my call. And when I call and I say, I think this person is developing a problem, you probably want to see them. They listen because they understand that SSRIs they will trigger manic phases. And normally that manic episode, if it's going to be triggered, it's going to be triggered at the first, like the first inception of treatment, or if there's an increase in the dose. So I don't know what this group of doctors, I don't quite understand why they were so lackadaisical. All of the psychiatrists that I know in this area, they all have either psychologists or nurse practitioners that work with them. And it is standard that if you prescribe an SSRI, we're doing frequent contact for about a month just to assess and make sure that their baseline behavior is safe, make sure that we're not looking at any suicidal issues or anything like that. But the big one is the mania. That's what we're really looking for. So, you're going to find out when this trial gets further along, you're going to find out that Lindsey all of a sudden started getting up at 4 a.m. and jogging 5 miles, right? A few days after birth, she's running 5K. Like there was plenty of evidence of both hypomanic episodes in her history, as well as full-blown mania, investing in silly, foolish, high dollar, investments. So this does absolutely, in my opinion, this really feels like people that were treating her were just going through the motions, lackadaisical. Oh yeah, it's just a mom, she just had a baby. She's not getting enough sleep. You know how that is. It'll all work out. Let's placate her. Let's just pat her on the butt and send her home with a prescription. Everything will be fine. And things were not fine. Her husband came home and started working from the house. Her mom and dad came down from Connecticut, moved into the house. This woman was either on the computer looking for help or in an emergency room looking for help. How many times does one person have to reach out to say, I am sick? I am sick. I am sick. I am sick. Right? Collect that money and give her a little prescription and pat her on the butt and send her on home. You'll be okay, honey. You just need a few nights of good sleep. And that's not what was happening. Now this is being presented as postpartum, a problem of postpartum depression. I would argue back. I would push back against that. I do think that she had postpartum depression. I think she recognized the signs, and that's when she first went to the doctor and said, I'm not sleeping. I feel bad. And they prescribed her the Zoloft. But at that point, that is when the prescribing doctor or nurse practitioner, that was the first step of malpractice. They prescribed that medication. And when she went back and said, I am worse, I'm no longer sleeping 3 hours a day, I'm not sleeping any hours in a day. I'm having unchecked thoughts in my head. My heart is pounding. I'm pacing the floor. I'm uncomfortable. Right there, that moment, that prescriber should have said, stop all the medications immediately. Immediately. And then you give her a couple of days to see what her body's going to do, if it's going to clear and see what happens. And then if it's still escalating, if there's no improvement, then you move them into a hospital environment where they are protected. And then you can control the environment. You know exactly what's going into their body. Then you can begin with things like mood stabilizers and a completely different class of antidepressant, right? Not an SSRI. The SSRIs are the culprit, really. But there's plenty of other medications. What are they doing? It's like watching a high school drug dealer listen to her symptoms and prescribe. Let's give the standard Zoloft, and then when they start complaining that they have too much energy, then we're going to give them some benzodiazepines. That was kindling on the fire. So by the time that these babies were killed, she was in full-blown psychosis, not thinking clearly, not accurate in her thoughts, not understanding what it was that she was doing any longer. Right? It went from postpartum that they treated with Zoloft, which is the standard, and they failed to recognize the manic psychosis. And that was where the malpractice started, is not noticing the manic psychosis. Yeah, and Sarah, there was so much contact with these doctors, these nurses that were prescribing. She even went into a treatment hospital where she was then told, while she's in psychosis, she's then told, we don't treat postpartum. Standing on my head screaming, saying, we're not dealing with postpartum anymore. It's no longer postpartum. Your Zoloft that you prescribed now have given us a new problem, a worse problem, manic depression. That's what we're dealing with now. She is in a manic episode that is so severe that she has lost touch with reality. I had somebody come into my office one day. He like worked like at a, like a restaurant thing. And he said that he was pouring soup, like from the big cooking pot, like into a smaller serving thing. And he was pouring it, and then it started coming out in chunks. And I said, it came out in chunks? Like, you mean chunks of like vegetables? He said, no, like ice cubes, but it was soup cubes. And so I asked them, when did we start serving soup cubes? And I said, okay. All right, not okay. Did I know that this person was in psychosis when they came into the office? No. Was he presenting with a smile on his face, very socially normal behavior? Yes. But then he, in just this very matter of fact, just normal discussion, he started telling me about how soup looks like cubes of ice, and that they're serving these cubes of ice to pay to customers. So is that what the prosecutors are going to do? Are they going to come up and they're going to say, well, she took the baby to the doctor, she was able to talk to the doctor, she was able to say hello to people at the birthday party? Sure, you can do that in psychosis, and then you can turn around and clear out your 401k and invest in a bunch of vacation homes in Death Valley. That's the kind of crazy things people do in psychosis. It's not that they're, in a corner babbling Martian language. That is not what psychosis is. That's not how it manifests. Wouldn't you agree that watching soup pour out of a pot and then it turns into ice cubes, except it's the color of the soup? Wouldn't you agree that is 100% not real? Right? So, they should have a real fight on their hands if they're going to try to say that is psychosis. That's going to be very, very strange. It just seems like these prosecutors, it's like a dog with a bone. It's like they get an idea in their head and they lose sight of rational thought. Like in the Karen Reed case, it's simply irrational to believe that broken glass would sit on the bumper of the truck as the truck is driven around town during a blizzard, and then it's towed and the glass is still there. No, it's not. That's absolutely not true. It would not be there. It would blow off. Probably when Karen Reed was driving the truck, but certainly when it was being towed. No, the reason the glass and the little splinters of glass were still on the bumper is because it was broken in the bay as it sat in the police department. So I don't know, y'all. This is, not a nightmare. The situation with Andrea Yates was fairly different. Hers was postpartum, it was untreated, and she was living in the most inhospitable environment imaginable. The amount of stress, there was this crazy preacher that was filling both her and her husband's heads full of nonsense, just nonsense. And there was a heavy religious aspect to everything that happened around her. You could look at that woman and see she was a zombie. Like Andrea had left the building. She was operating like a robot. Oh yeah, the reversal of the video. Thank you, Just Me. It was just terrible. The whole thing, everything they did was just god awful. And it was all to save a dirty cop, in my opinion. But this case, those babies, it's my belief, it's my opinion, those babies would be alive today if the medical community had responded properly. If the medical community had responded the way her husband responded and her parents responded, they all recognized something is really wrong. And they all showed up to help and to be there. The people that didn't show up were the people that had the answers, the medical folks. The big question is, why didn't they show up? That's the big question. My understanding is that both Lindsey's family and Patrick's family have sued these practitioners. So I believe they're being sued for, lots of money. Now, there's one thing that bothers me about this case. It's not pointing the fingers or anything like that, but it's curious to me. It's a little bothersome to me. Not in a oh he's guilty way. Just seems a little odd to me. And that is Patrick, the husband. He got married like in the early part of 2026, right? He apparently met this lady about a year after the kids were killed. It's very difficult for me to understand that. It doesn't mean that it's not logical. I'm just saying, from my perspective, it seems a little fast. Maybe there's a level of denial there, but it's hard to understand how you go from being in this wonderful, happy marriage, which by all accounts, it was a great marriage. And you lose everything, but then you're available to fall in love after a year of grief. I have somebody in my family that I'm super close to, and his wife died 5-6 years ago. And they were incredibly happy couple, like loved each other to the ends of the earth and back, had fun all the time, big friend group, like life was great. Okay. And it was a real shocking, tragic moment when she passed. It was a medical emergency. Anyway, he couldn't even imagine the idea of potentially dating someone for like four years. He just everything went through this lens of he'd lost his family, or his wife. He's got great kids and they're all close and love each other, but just everything went through this lens, right? Of that it's not normal for me to date because I love this person and I don't know what to do. So I just think 1 year is especially when you consider the size of this tragedy, the size of this trauma. It just seems very fast to me. And there you go. So Just Me said that her husband died 2 years ago. I'm really sorry for your loss, Just Me. You do have a hard time sort of seeing yourself in a dating relationship, right? Like that's what's been described to me by my family member. It's just a weird idea because after you've been married for a while, that's your family. Like that's where you belong. That's your identity. And, he wasn't even close to even considering or thinking about dating for years and years. So, and I think it's safe to say, couldn't even imagine. Well, I don't know. I can't talk to that, but anyway, it just seems like 1 year after this unfathomable tragedy, you're available to date and fall in love. Maybe there's some denial there. Maybe it was too much alone to lose everybody. You didn't even have your kids, right? So maybe it was a need to just have someone in the room with him, right? I respect him. I would never ever make a judgment on whether it's okay or not. It just made me surprised, right? Just kind of made me surprised. Haven't even thought of dating. My sister and brother-in-law were dating within a month. Wow. Yeah, that's, Well, everybody's different, just me. Everybody is different, but I am very sorry to hear of your loss. Very sorry. And thank you for sharing that with us. Appreciate that. So yeah, I thought it was really, really quick. Number one, thing that really surprised me about this is the woman that he married is a doctor, and so he met Lindsey in 2016, and then they got married in 2000. Wait, am I right? Yeah, no, they met in 2013 and got married in 2016. So that was 3 years basically, right? And then he ends up meeting this lady in 2023, and then they get married in 2026. Seems like the same period of dating time, right? That's kind of similar. And then the lady that he married is a doctor in New York City. She's a fertility specialist. Lindsey was labor and delivery nurse. The lady he marries is a fertility specialist. Isn't that interesting? I don't know why. There's a lot of parallels there that really it was just a weird thing to notice. Patrick Clancy did in fact put up a GoFundMe to be used to help, I think, with the burials and things like that, and ended up collecting over $1 million on this GoFundMe. And now he is married to Dr. Rachel Damas, and they live in Manhattan, which is a very expensive place. So, yeah, there's a lot in he absolutely continues to support Lindsey Clancy. He has spoken out that he does not hold her responsible for what happened, that it was a breakdown in treatment, mental health emergency. And he is on the defense's witness list. So I think that is very, very interesting. Let's see what there was anything else that was notable. The parents continue to support Patrick. They continue to support Lindsey. This is just sad, awful, terrible set of circumstances. Were you rude, Big T? I'm sorry you were rude. Who wants to train another child? Who wants to train another child after 30 plus years? I don't know what that means, Big T. Are you talking about like getting remarried and having to retrain him into being your best kind of husband? Is that what you mean? Yeah, not rude, maybe just a little off color, maybe. But I get it. It's okay. All right. So I don't know how long their morning break was. It's interesting. The code word for nutty is interesting. The code word for nutty. I think it's of interest. I think it's curious. It kind of makes me do my Scooby-Doo impression, right? Like, what? Her? You know, it's just kind of like, what? How did you date and get married when you know there's this trial coming? You've lost your wife and your 3 babies. The trial's hanging over your head. It takes you like, there's a little bit of discomfort, right? What do y'all think? How would y'all describe it? I just thought it was really fast, and let me say it another way. maybe it's a little hard to imagine being romantic when your beloved wife, who has killed your 3 babies because she's in psychosis, is now in prison and you guys are all preparing for a murder trial. Isn't that, how do you be romantic? I want to know how long he knew this fertility doctor before the children and after the children. You know what I mean? I wondered, Requiem. I said, did he know this doctor through Lindsey? Like, did he meet the doctor because he knew, because she worked at the hospital with Lindsey? It's very, the best way I can say it is it's interesting. I don't know what to make of it. I can't see it. I can't make it. It's very illogical to me. It doesn't fit with known facts of human behavior. Where was the grief? Where was the grief? Where was the trauma? And how did you set all of that? Because look, let's face it, trauma, grief is a very active process. And it has the ability to kick your feet out from underneath you bigger than Dallas. I've seen grown men who had like young adults, like 20, 30-year-old sons who would get killed in some tragedy, like not from cancer or something, but some violent tragedy. There's something about that violence that just messes with them. They can't get it right in their head. Lose everything, lose their house to foreclosure, lose their job because they just couldn't manage the shock of what their child experienced. You see what I mean? And it's hard for me to wrap my mind around, how do you get to that point? I mean, I'm not saying, please don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying that he did anything nefarious or bad, or I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying there's got to be some interesting dynamics, curious dynamics to get there. And maybe what Kathy says his new wife looks a lot like Lindsey. Like I said, maybe it brought him some comfort. Maybe it gave him a sense of peace not to be alone. I can respect that. That's fine. But I'd be worried what's going to happen in the next 7 years as he navigates his grief and he navigates the loss of the children, you know, when he's getting healthy again and he's coming out from underneath that fog, what happens to the new marriage? You know, I'd be on guard for that. Yes, but I don't wish ill on people in that much pain. Yeah, 100%, certainly. He might be severely codependent, speculating. Yeah, I don't know. You know what, the usual path, like what you normally see, people usually retreat. They kind of withdraw from public life. Like they're not going out all the time to restaurants, and they're not going to the to they're not going to go watch the Astros play baseball. They withdraw into their home. They sort of form a nest to feel protected and to sort of lick their wounds and try to heal this terrible trauma, the tragedy that they've lived through. It's interesting that his path was a little different, you know. He is a witness for the defense. That is true, Requiem. He's on their defense list. And he's always stood up for her. Like within a week of her arrest, he was speaking up for her. So he's never doubted her, not a single time. Once again, we've got these illogical, maybe irrational is a better word, irrational Massachusetts prosecutors that are just like a dog with a bone. We're going to get her. We're going to make her pay. She's not going to walk away with this. Instead of actually thinking, is this really a mental health issue? Could this possibly be the fault of a medical system that failed their duty rather than the mother who was actively seeking relief and was being failed every time she turned around? It's a question. He is supposed to be the first witness today with the prosecution. Is he going to be a what do they call it when the witness doesn't want to testify for you? Not angry witness, but I hope you're having a good day. I am. Nanoflower Power, it has been so long since I saw you. How are you? Thank you, Just Me. Yeah, a hostile witness. Good to see you, Manna. Boy, they are on a long break, aren't they? Let's see if I can think. Let's see. He's supposed to be witness for the defense too, maybe a hostile witness. I don't know. Yeah, we'll find out, right? He'll be on the stand soon enough. I really thought I had just the right amount of time to talk about history. But I did. I timed it pretty good, not perfectly, but close. All right, good deal. Okay, let's go. I've got it up on my big TV so I can see what they're doing in real time. There we go. Oh, I feel so sorry for this woman. My God. She has a life sentence. No matter what the outcome of this trial, she will never know peace, you know? Nanoflower Power is a very sweet person, Big T. Exactly like Andrea. They'll never be, even if he ends up in an apartment, free, well treated with medication, life is over for Lindsey. You know, how do you ever get over what you yourself did? You know, you never do. So sad. I guess that must be her mom and dad they're about to show. So sad. Ugh. Bless her heart. My God.
This court's now in session. Please be seated.
Your Honor, for the purpose of the record, we return back to the trial of Commonwealth versus Lindsey Clancy. All parties are present, including the defendant.
All right. Well, members of the jury, thank you for your patience with us. We're now going to begin the presentation of evidence. Commonwealth, you call your first witness, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Commonwealth calls Patrick Clancy.
You know what we see here? We're seeing a lot of people sitting on the defendant's side of the courtroom. We don't usually see that, right? Usually you see a lot of people over, you know, with the prosecution and not so much with the defendant, but she has a lot of support in that courtroom. Very interesting. All right, here he comes.
Good morning. Would you solemnly swear that the testimony in the evidence you shall give to the court and the jury, the matter now pending between the Commonwealth and the defendant shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. You may have a seat, sir.
All right. Good morning, sir. I'm going to ask you to speak into that microphone. You can be seated if you like, if you're more comfortable. Okay. All right, come up, please.
Your Honor. Good morning. Can you please state and spell your name for the record?
Yeah, my name is Patrick Clancy. It's Patrickclancy.
And what is your date of birth?
June 15th, 1988,
What city do you live in now?
New York.
And what do you do for a living?
I work in tech.
How long have you worked in tech?
14 years.
It's in
And were you
Massachusetts.
previously married to a person named Lindsey Clancy?
Yes,
And you're divorced now, is that correct?
correct.
Do you see that person in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Could you point to them and describe something they're wearing?
It's not necessary.
She's wearing a pink shirt.
Record will reflect the identification of the defendant.
Thank you. Where did you meet the defendant?
In South Boston.
And when was that?
I think it was May 2013.
And how did you meet her?
Through my cousin.
And would it be accurate to state that your cousin had been college roommates of the defendant?
Yes.
And at some point in time, did you start dating?
Yes.
And around what time was that?
July 2013.
Did you eventually move in together?
Yes.
Do you remember when that was?
September 2015.
And where did you live?
In Quincy.
How long did you live in Quincy?
1 year.
And where did you go after that?
We bought a house in Weymouth.
And how long did you live in Weymouth?
2 years.
Did you eventually get married?
Yes.
And when was that?
December 2016.
And was that while you were living in Weymouth?
Yes.
Did you have your first child when you were living in Weymouth?
Yes.
And what was her name?
Cora.
And what was her date of birth?
December 24th, 2017.
Prior to getting married, did the defendant ever tell you she had taken psychiatric medication while in nursing school?
Not that I recall.
After having Cora, did the three of you move somewhere else?
Yeah, we moved to Duxbury.
And what was your address in Duxbury?
47 Summer Street.
And do you recall when you moved there?
I believe it was July 2018.
And where were you working at that time?
I was working for a startup called Automation Anywhere.
At some point in time, did you start working for Microsoft?
Yes.
And when was that?
May 2020.
And when you worked for Microsoft, did you go to an office or did you work from home?
I work from home.
And was that from 2020 onward that you worked from home?
No, I started working from home in 2018.
2018, okay. So from 2018 up until, let's say, 2023, you were working from home, is that correct?
Yes.
And did you have an office in your home which you worked out of?
Eventually, yeah.
And where was that located?
In the basement.
And was that a finished basement?
Yes.
Going back to after Cora was born, do you recall the defendant having any physical issues after the birth?
Yeah.
And what were those?
I think there was a lot of tearing and she bled a lot.
Did it take her a while to recover physically?
I would say so, yeah.
Did she have maternity leave at that time?
Yes.
Where was she working?
Mass General Hospital.
And what was she doing there?
She's a labor and delivery nurse.
At that point in time, when she had Cora in 2017, how long had she been a nurse?
3 years, maybe.
And do you recall how long her maternity leave was with Cora?
That was the shortest of the three. I want to say it was 10 or 11 weeks.
And did you have paternity leave at that time?
Yeah, I had 2 weeks.
2 weeks, okay. When you went back after the 2 weeks back to work in the home, were there any issues that you noticed the defendant having?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just want to correct an earlier statement. I was working for Pegasystems when Cora was born.
Okay. And then eventually you worked for Microsoft?
Yeah.
Okay. And so after the 2 weeks of your paternity leave, the defendant was still on maternity leave, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And did she have to take any psychiatric medications at that time?
Not that I know of. She had a lot of anxiety, but
Okay. So you're saying that she had some anxiety at that time. Is that correct?
yeah.
How did that manifest, or how did you know that?
She just really struggled with the date of going back to work.
So immediately after having Cora, as she healed physically, what was her mood like when you're both on leave?
It was great. It was good.
Good. Okay.
I mean, relatively, yeah.
And so did the anxiety start as it became closer in time to when she had to go back to work?
Yes.
How many shifts was she working at that time?
Before Cora was born, she was working at least 40 hours, maybe more. After she went back to work, it was, I think, initially just one.
One shift?
Yeah.
And was that a 12-hour shift?
It was per diem.
Per diem.
And then she eventually did 2 shifts.
Okay.
I think it was 20 weeks.
After 20 weeks, she moved to 2 shifts?
I'm sorry, it was 20 hours a week.
20 hours a week, okay. And so from the time she worked her way back up to 20 hours a week at work until she had your next child, did it remain that 20 hours per week that she worked?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. And did you have any assistance in the home during that time after she went back to work? A nanny or a babysitter?
Yeah, we had babysitters. We had a babysitter who came probably 12 hours a week.
And did that typically happen after your wife had a shift, that the nanny or the babysitter would be there?
Yeah, so she could sleep.
Did the defendant work overnights?
Yeah.
And how long did you have that nanny or babysitter for?
Several years.
Do you remember her name?
We called her Miss Jen.
Miss Jen? Do you remember her last name?
Shanahan.
And then you had a second child, is that correct?
Yes.
And what was their name?
Dawson.
And what was Dawson's date of birth?
September 30th, 2019.
And was Miss Jen still helping out in the home at that time?
Yeah.
And what was Dawson's delivery like?
Pretty traumatic.
How so?
He was in I think a breech position. So he came out in I guess I don't know much about it, but not an ideal way. And it caused just significant bruising and tearing.
So again, did the defendant with this second pregnancy have some pain and difficulty physically healing from the birth?
Yeah, much more so than Cora.
Okay. And was she on maternity leave at that time?
Yes.
How many weeks leave did she have at that time?
I don't recall, but I think it was more than the traditional 12. I want to say it was 13 or 14, maybe more.
Page 13, if I may approach.
You may.
You don't have to keep telling me the pages, that's okay.
I could have you look at page 13 and just read to yourselves lines 6 through 10, and then just look up when you're finished. Thank you. Does that refresh your memory as to how much maternity leave the defendant had after Dawson's birth?
Yeah.
And what was it?
18.
18 weeks?
Mhm.
Is that correct?
I believe so.
Okay. And, after dealing with the physical pain of birth and starting to heal, how was her demeanor and experience during that maternity leave?
I think it was fine at first. It was always when she had to go back to work, that's when she struggled. So,
Okay. So that was a pattern that you saw after
Yeah.
the baby, maternity leave was good, and then she'd struggle going back to work?
she just had a really hard time being separated from them.
What was the plan for how many shifts she would work or how many hours she would work after Dawson was born?
I believe it was the same thing.
And in terms of Ms. Shanahan, the babysitter, you had mentioned before that she was there about 12 hours a week. Did that stay consistent after Dawson's birth, or was it more or less?
Probably consistent.
After Dawson's birth, did the defendant ever tell you whether she was on any psychiatric medication after Dawson's birth?
No.
Did she seek treatment or tell you she sought treatment after Dawson's birth?
Yeah, she got a therapist for a short period of time, but it didn't last very long.
Did she tell you that at the time or later?
At the time.
Okay. And did she have any psychiatric hospitalizations or commitments at that time?
No.
What about after Cora's birth? Any psychiatric hospitalizations or treatments?
No.
Was there a time after Dawson's birth where she wanted to declutter your garage?
Maybe at some point.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you assist her with that?
Yeah.
Okay. And how was that done?
We had a lot of stuff to throw away, and I think we sold some stuff on Facebook Marketplace. We just had a lot of stuff.
So did the two of you go through the items in the garage and organize it into what you would keep, what you would throw away, and what you would sell?
Yes.
Okay. And so it was very organized?
I would say so, yeah.
And you finished the project, is that correct?
It was always ongoing.
Now, eventually you had your third child, correct?
Yeah.
And what was their name?
Callan.
And what was his date of birth?
May 2022.
Can you describe that delivery for us?
It was great. From what I could tell, it was relatively quick. It was during the day. We were both smiling after, and I don't think there was as much physical trauma.
Nothing compared to what happened with Cora or Dawson, is that correct?
Correct.
Did the defendant have maternity leave after Callan's birth?
Yeah.
And how long was that leave?
She never went back.
How long was it planned for initially?
I want to say 18 weeks.
And were you on paternity leave as well?
Yes.
And how long was your paternity leave?
12 weeks.
So with Callan being born on May 26, 2022, the two of you were home with the children that summer on leave, is that correct?
Yeah.
What was family life like during that time period, those summer months?
It was great. We had a lot of time off. I was able to spend a lot of time with, I spent a lot of time with Cora and Dawson. So I would take them around, the playgrounds and birthday parties and stuff like that.
Okay. And what would Lindsey be doing while you were with Cora and Dawson?
Sometimes she'd come with us with Callan, but oftentimes we did kind of like a divide and conquer. So she'd be home with Callan and I'd be out with the older kids.
And what types of family activities did you all do during those summer months?
We went on a couple vacations. We went to the beach. We went out on our boat and went to friends' houses.
During those months, when you're going to the beach and out on the boat and visiting with friends, were there any signs of anxiety in the defendant during those months?
I would say starting in September, yes, but in the previous months, not so much.
When had she been scheduled to go back to work?
I don't remember the exact date, but I think it was October.
So again, it was that pattern of as it became closer in time to go back to work,
Yeah.
she started to struggle.
Yeah.
During the times when she would get anxious, when it was time to go back to work and she would start being anxious, did you ever have any difficulty understanding her when she spoke?
No.
And did she ever exhibit any behavior that made you concerned enough to call a doctor or want to commit her?
No.
When she was showing this anxiety, what were you seeing in her behavior?
Just a lot of stress. There were days where she had all 3 kids, and there's different nap schedules and different needs. So it was just really stressful.
Okay. And you're still working in the basement office at this point after Callan's born, correct?
I went back to work late August.
Okay. And when you work downstairs, how often would you come upstairs during the day?
All the time for lunch or just to say hi.
Were there times when Lindsey would ask you to hold the baby in the office while she was doing something?
So, yeah.
Okay. And were there times when you would watch one or more of the children while she took another to a doctor's appointment or to an errand or something like that?
Yeah, if it worked out with the schedule, yeah.
Okay. What was the plan in terms of how many shifts or hours she was going to work after Callan?
I believe the plan was 2 shifts per week, but there was a lot of flexibility. She could have done really anything.
Do you recall saying previously that you were going to start off with 1 shift and hopefully move to 2?
I could imagine, yeah.
Okay. And you said there was some options, correct? What were those options if that didn't work out?
Well, I always put money aside in basically our own maternity account, just so that if she needed more flexibility, we planned for that. So
if she needed more time off, more than what her work would provide for her, you were financially secure enough to afford that at that time. During this time, in the fall of 2022, were Cora and Dawson attending preschool?
yes,
And where was that?
Learning Sprouts,
And where is Learning Sprouts located?
Duxbury.
How often were they attending Learning Sprouts?
Full days Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and a half day on Thursday.
And what was a full day? What hours?
I think it was 9 to 4.
9 a.m. to 4 p.m.?
I think so, yeah.
And what was a half day?
Like 9 to 12:30. I think they might have had some days where they started early. I can't remember.
Okay. But basically all day, working hours all day, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then the mornings on Thursday. Is that right?
Right.
And who would do drop-offs for school?
We both would.
And what about pickups?
Both of us.
Together or take turns?
Usually we would take turns.
Now, at some point in time after Callan was born, did you hire a nanny?
Yes.
And when was that?
I think it was in August or September.
Of 2022?
Yeah.
And who was that nanny?
Lainey. I don't remember her last name.
Does Elaine Rossi sound familiar?
Yeah.
And do you recall how many days per week Elaine was going to work when you hired her?
I think it was 12 hours.
But it wouldn't be 12 hours altogether. It would be spread out over the week. Is that right?
Correct.
And who was she hired to take care of?
Everyone, but mainly it was going to be Callan
Because Cora and Dawson would be at school?
for the most part. Yeah.
And what was the plan for when Elaine would work? Was it that same type of after Lindsey worked shifts or something different?
Yeah, the goal was after Lindsey would work. I mean, she never went back to work, but I think we wanted to get her just like oriented with our house and the kids. So we had her start before, and then she was amazing. She was an amazing caregiver, but eventually we decided to let her go because Lindsey was home anyways.
So when you initially hired her in August or September, you said Lindsey was going back to work in October. So is that what you're talking about, that give her that month or so, give Elaine that month or so to get situated and acclimated to the house?
Yeah.
Okay. Have the kids get used to her. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Elaine, did she also do some cleaning, laundry, and food prep?
Yeah. Yeah. She was amazing.
Now, during this time frame, and again, in the end of summer, fall period of 2022, what types of activities were Cora and Dawson doing?
Gymnastics. Are you talking about organized activities or just in general?
Organized.
I only remember gymnastics.
Did they both do the gymnastics?
Yeah.
And then were they also participating, maybe not in organized situations, but in swimming, soccer, skiing, things like that?
Yeah, they were doing swimming. And yeah, Cora and Dawson did skiing. Yeah, Cora started doing soccer. She didn't really like it, but did a little bit.
And who took them skiing?
I did.
And as in terms of the swimming, where would you do that?
We did it at Goldfish in Rockland, I think. And then Lindsey took them somewhere in, I think, Plymouth. I don't remember where it was.
So you would each take them swimming at various times?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you also do some swimming at the Kingsbury Club?
Yes.
And what is the Kingsbury Club?
It's like a gym with a pool, and they had childcare, so sometimes they would hang out in the kids' room and we would go work out.
And is that in Duxbury?
It's on the Kingston-Duxbury line. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah.
Okay. And so you could drop the kids off at the daycare portion and go work out or swim or something like that?
Yeah, or we could go with them and go swimming.
Okay. Did Lindsey work out?
Yes,
She was very health conscious?
I think so.
And were you aware that she had been an athlete in both high school and college?
Yes.
Do you recall what she did?
Competitive cheerleading.
Now, when you were together, what type of exercise would she do or did she prefer?
She did a lot of running. She did the Peloton, and she did, there's like some program called Beachbody, I think.
Do you recall when she started Beachbody?
Maybe in the spring of 2022. I'm not sure.
So right before having Callan, would that be accurate?
Probably, yeah.
When you returned to work, and you said that was in August, correct?
Yes.
What was the defendant's demeanor when you returned to work?
Increased anxiety and definitely, stressed out.
Do you recall describing her as slightly stressed but in good spirits?
Yeah.
And when she was stressed out, when she was showing some anxiety, how did that manifest?
I don't really know how to describe it. I guess it's just any way you can tell that somebody's stressed out, and I don't know. She would say, I'm not looking forward to going back to work. I remember once she said it's just so unnatural to be separated from your newborn, stuff like that.
So she didn't want to go back to work? Is that what you're saying?
I think she did. It was just a really difficult transition for her.
And do you recall attending a wedding on September 17th, 2022?
Yeah.
And where was that wedding?
New Hampshire.
Was it just you and Lindsay that went, or did the whole family go?
We brought Kellen.
And when you were at that wedding, do you recall having a conversation with Lindsay about medication?
Yes.
What did she say to you?
We were walking downtown and she said, I think I'm going to start taking Zoloft.
And did she tell you why she wanted to start taking Zoloft?
She said, I think it's really going to help with my anxiety and with going back to work.
And did she tell you how she was going to go about getting Zoloft?
Yeah, I asked her, how are you going to get Zoloft? It's a prescription. And she said, usually just ask the doctor and they'll give it to you.
And did she tell you that she was going to see a psychiatrist?
Yeah, I believe so.
And when she did that, did she tell you who she was going to see?
No.
Did you eventually learn the name of the person who she went to see?
Months later, yeah.
Okay. And who was that?
Jennifer Tufts.
Okay. And did Lindsay tell you when she started seeing Dr. Jennifer Tufts?
No.
Did you learn, or strike that, did Lindsay tell you when she received the medication and when she started it?
No. I mean, I should correct that. It's not exactly.
Well, let me just ask a question first.
Sure.
Did you have a conversation with Lindsay about the medication she was on?
Eventually, yeah, but I didn't know the start date.
Okay. And so when did this conversation take place, this eventual conversation?
Probably the end of October.
Okay. And at that point, what did Lindsay tell you about the medication and how she was taking it?
I don't remember exactly, but I learned that she was taking the Zoloft, and I don't remember really too much about it after that. She was just taking it, and we were seeing how it went.
And did you notice any changes in her physically during that time frame that she was on it and you weren't aware she was on it?
At the time, no, I don't think I did.
And did you notice any changes in her emotionally during that time when she was on it, but you weren't aware she was on it?
Yeah, she wasn't really improving. She just kind of seemed to be gradually becoming more in like a depressed state.
And how was that manifesting? What were you noticing?
It was just small things. I was planning a trip with Cora to San Francisco, and she was nervous about us going. And I remember we went to a Halloween event, and just leading up to it, I remember it just kind of seemed like she didn't want to go for some reason.
Okay. Now, do you recall learning that she had actually obtained the prescription the day before she told you she was going to ask for the prescription?
I did later learn that, yeah.
Okay. So she's telling you at the wedding that she is going to ask to take this medication and going to see a psychiatrist to get on that medication, but she actually already had the prescription. Is that correct?
Correct. I don't think she started taking it yet, but she already had it.
Okay. And did Lindsay tell you how long she took the medication for?
She may have. I don't remember the exact time frame. I just remember she took it for a period of time, and then her sleep started to suffer, so she stopped taking it.
And did she tell you whether or not she spoke to her provider, her doctor, about the troubles she was having.
I believe so, yeah.
And did Lindsey tell you that she was advised to double the dose of the Zoloft?
She may have. I don't remember.
Page 31. You could look at lines 20 to 22 and then just look up when you're
Sure.
finished.
Okay, yeah, apparently she did.
Did that refresh your memory?
Yeah.
And so did Lindsey tell you that she was supposed to double the dose?
I guess she did, yeah.
Did you notice any changes in her sleep during that time when she was on the medication, but you weren't aware she was on it?
Eventually, yeah.
When was that?
I don't remember the exact dates. But she just, one night she said, do you mind? She started by saying, I'm not mad or anything, but do you mind sleeping in the basement? And letting me just sleep in our room with Callan. And then you can take the monitors down in the basement. And if Cora and Dawson get up, you can get up with them. She said, I've just been having a lot of trouble sleeping. And I'm hoping that like if there's less in and out, then there'll be less disruption.
Okay. Had you noticed prior to her telling you this that she was up a lot or having trouble sleeping, like physically seeing her awake?
No, not that I recall.
And did you in fact start sleeping in the basement for a period of time?
I think I did it for like 2 nights, and then she actually went down in the basement.
Okay, so then you went back up to your bedroom to sleep, is that correct?
Yeah.
And how long did Lindsey sleep in the basement for after that?
Maybe a couple of weeks.
And so during that time frame, was she telling you that she was still having trouble sleeping?
Yes,
But you weren't actually down there watching her sleep. You're getting this information from her, correct?
correct.
Were you aware that out of the Zoloft prescription she was given, she only took 7 pills?
No.
After you had the conversation with Lindsey where she said she was going to double the dose of Zoloft, did you notice any difference in her demeanor or behavior?
I would say yes. I don't know if I connected it with the doubling of her Zoloft, but over that period of time, she just kept getting worse and worse.
And what period of time was that? What month are we in?
Mid-October to the end of December.
Okay, so she got the prescription in September, started taking it in October, took 7 pills, but was having difficulty in December. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
From this medication?
Yep. Well, I don't know which medication it was from, but yeah.
Okay. At some point in time, did Lindsey switch providers?
Yes.
And why did she do that?
Because whatever she was doing with Jennifer Tufts, it wasn't working. She was only getting worse. And she thought that it would be better if she worked with, I guess, more of like a perinatal psychiatrist.
And did she get a referral or a recommendation of where to go?
I think so, yeah.
Do you know who gave her that recommendation?
It might have been my mother.
And your mother's a nurse at South Shore Hospital, correct?
Yeah.
Does she also do labor and delivery work?
Yes.
Okay. And so do you know which provider or which office she recommended?
Yeah, her name is Julie Paul.
And was she at the South Shore Perinatal Clinic?
Something like that, yeah.
Okay. And do you know when that was?
I don't know the dates on that.
Do you recall saying previously that it was towards the end of November?
Yeah, that sounds accurate, yeah.
Okay. And you said she initially saw someone named Julie Paul, is that correct?
Correct.
And do you know how long she saw Julie Paul at that facility?
I think it was only 4 or 5 days.
And were you aware that Julie Paul left that office?
Yes.
And do you know who Lindsey saw after Julie Paul?
Rebecca Gelata.
And was Rebecca Gelata a nurse practitioner?
Yes.
Were you aware that she also saw a licensed social worker therapist named Letitia Dukes while she was at the South Shore Perinatal Clinic?
I don't recall Letitia Dukes, but it's possible.
So Lindsey never told you that she had therapy sessions with a person named Letitia Dukes during that time frame?
I don't remember any therapy sessions now.
Okay. After switching to Julie Paul and then Rebecca Gelata, did Lindsey start coming home with different prescription bottles?
Yes.
Okay. And were some of these medications that she came home with, were some of them during the time she was with Dr. Tufts?
I think some of them were, yeah.
And some of them were while she was with Julie Paul, is that correct?
Correct.
And then some while she was with nurse practitioner Gelata, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And would it be accurate to state that you provided the district attorney's office with a printout from CVS Pharmacy of all the prescriptions that were filled for Lindsey from September through January, September 2022 through January of 2023?
Yes.
Any objection?
No, of course not.
I'd ask for it to be admitted.
Sure, yeah. In members of the jury, one of the things I forgot to tell you is anything that's entered as an exhibit, you'll have with you in the deliberating room when you're deliberating. So you'll have a chance to go over that as well. So you'll have anything that's marked as an exhibit. Okay? Thank you.
Now, while she was taking these medications, the various pills, were you always with her watching and monitoring exactly what she took?
Not always, no.
Sometimes you'd see it, sometimes you wouldn't.
Yeah.
Directing your attention to February 6th, 2023, did you go to the district attorney's office and or have your attorney go there and provide a bag of prescription medication that had belonged to Lindsey?
Yeah. I think the police took a bag of prescription medications that night, the night my kids passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was a bag that I had in my truck that I was supposed to, nurse practitioner Gelata said you can bring them to like a police station. They get rid of them for you. But I never got around to it.
And where had you stored those in your truck?
In the center console. It's like underneath the center console that opens.
You have one of those center consoles that open up, but then there's another larger
Correct.
compartment below it?
Yeah.
So was it your plan to bring these to a location where they could be properly disposed?
Yeah, I didn't want to just throw them in the trash, so.
And these were all medications that had been prescribed in the past to Lindsey, but she was no longer taking, correct?
Right.
Your Honor, I don't think I have any objection to any of their exhibits, so
Okay.
she doesn't have to keep showing it to me. That's
All right.
fine.
So I'll assume if you do have an objection, just
Sure.
rise, let me know. Okay, thank you.
So for the record, a bag here with 9 pill bottles as exhibit 2, please.
Thank you.
And so looking in exhibit 2, we have the Zoloft that was prescribed by Dr. Tufts and filled on September 15th, 2022. And I think I asked you earlier, you weren't aware that only 7 pills were taken out of this, correct?
That's correct.
And then there's another prescription in here for Ativan that was filled on October 26, 2022. Were you aware that only 6 pills were taken out of that bottle?
Can you say the date again?
October 26, 2022.
And how many did it start with?
Let's see. Hmm. 30 pills.
Okay. I mean, I don't have those exact numbers on how many she took, but there were adjustments made on the dosage of the Ativan.
Mhm.
So that aligns with
But
what
the question
happened.
was, were you aware that only 6 pills were taken out of this prescription?
No, but I think the context is important.
Okay. Were you aware that there was a prescription for buspirone or Buspar filled on October 26, 2022, in which only 2 pills were taken out of the 30 that were prescribed?
I found out about the Buspar later, and I didn't know about the number of pills taken.
And then were you aware that there was a prescription for hydroxynine, prescription filled on October 26, 2022 for 30 pills, and that only 3 pills were taken out of this bottle?
Which
Hydroxynine?
Yeah, what is that?
I believe it's in some type of, similar to an antihistamine, like Benadryl or something like that.
Oh, okay. I don't really recall much about that drug.
And were you aware in this bag there was another prescription for Buspar that was filled on November 9th, 2022, 30 pills prescribed, and no pills were taken out of this bottle? Were you aware of that?
I wasn't keeping track of the number of pills taken out of each bottle.
Okay.
So
And then I'll just ask you about one more. The trazodone, prescribed on November 16th, 2022, by a doctor from South Shore Hospital, 30 pills. Were you aware that only 7.5 pills were taken out of this prescription?
no.
So there were a lot of pills prescribed, but not a lot of pills taken, correct?
Is that comprehensive of all the pills that were prescribed?
These are the pills that you brought into the police station. So out of these,
Out of those, yeah, it's possible that not a lot were taken.
do you recall what was the most amount of pills prescribed? I guess I could ask this better. What was the maximum number of medications she was on at any one time?
I want to say 3 or 4.
Would it surprise you to know that she, at any given time, the most she was prescribed was 3, but most of the time it was 2 medications that she was prescribed at any given time?
It wouldn't be terribly surprising, no.
Now, on November 16th, 2022, did Lindsey visit South Shore Hospital?
Yes.
Okay. And why did she go to the South Shore Hospital that day?
I believe that day was because she basically went 48 hours without sleeping.
And was she having heart palpitations?
I think so, yeah.
Were you aware that she had taken a weed gummy that day?
I don't recall.
And are you aware that she didn't tell medical staff at the hospital when describing her symptoms and her medication that she left out that she had used marijuana?
I wasn't with her, so I don't know what she talked about at the hospital.
So she drove herself to the hospital?
She did.
And she drove herself home from the hospital then, is that
Yeah.
correct? Now, during this time frame between September and November of 2022, are you still participating in activities as a family?
Between November and December?
Between September and November?
Yeah.
Okay. And what types of things were you doing?
We celebrated Halloween. I don't really remember what else, but I think we were doing things regularly.
Do you recall going to an event with food trucks?
Yeah.
And do you recall going to an event in November where there were trains to ride with the kids?
Yeah.
So we have the photo from the food truck event, this is exhibit 3. And the photo from the train event is exhibit 4. 3 and 4 somewhere. Can they publish?
You may.
So exhibit 3 is this Lindsey, Cora, and Callan at that event.
Yeah.
And exhibit 4, this Lindsey with all 3 kids at that event in November.
Yeah.
Did you have plans for Thanksgiving that year?
Yeah.
What were your plans?
I believe the order was we went to Wallingford where her parents lived in the week before, and then the week after we went to my sister's house.
And where did your sister live? What town?
South Hamilton.
And that was a week after Thanksgiving, is that right, correct?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, it was.
And is this a photo from Thanksgiving at your sister's house?
Yes.
I could have this photo marked as exhibit 5, I believe.
All right, that may be marked.
5. Showing you what's been marked. Exhibit 5. Is this Lindsey here on the left?
Yes.
And are those your sisters in the photo with her?
That's one of my sisters and my sister-in-law.
Okay. And have they coordinated outfits for the day? The shirts?
Yeah, I think my sister did.
What was Lindsay's demeanor that day?
She was in rough shape.
Rough shape?
Yeah.
How so?
She wasn't talking much. She had low energy. She was really depressed. I just remember when she showed up, my sister-in-law gave her a big hug.
And she was able to get through dinner, eat dinner with everyone?
Yeah.
Okay. She interacted with people, is that correct?
I would say very little, but to some degree, sure.
And she took care of the kids with you while she was there?
We both took care of the kids together.
You mentioned earlier that your wedding anniversary is in December, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you recall going out for your anniversary on December 3rd, 2022, going into Boston?
No, we didn't go out.
You don't recall arranging for a massage for Lindsay and then going to the Omni Parker house and going out to dinner that night?
No, December 3rd, 2022, we stayed home.
You stayed home, okay. Showing you a photo of you and Lindsay. You recognize this photo?
Yeah,
And when was that taken?
I'm not really sure.
It wasn't taken on December 3rd when you were out celebrating your anniversary?
In 2022?
Yes.
No. No, we wanted to go out, but we canceled because she wasn't feeling well. So we stayed home. We got takeout.
Okay. Did you also, on November 26th, 2022, go out as a family to get a Christmas tree?
Yes. Well, probably. I don't know. But yeah, around that time, yes.
Okay. Showing you two photos. Are these from that day when you got the Christmas tree?
Yeah, that looks accurate.
You can have the first photo of all five. Six. And then the second one is exhibit 7. Exhibit 7. Showing you exhibit 6. This is all of you at the tree farm.
Yeah.
And exhibit 7, those are the kids.
Yes.
Around December 6th, 2022, did Lindsay tell you she was starting a new medication?
I don't remember specifically.
Is it that you don't remember the date or you don't remember her starting a new medication?
I'm not sure.
Do you remember Lindsay telling you at some point she was starting the medication Seroquel?
Yes.
Do you remember around what time frame that was?
I thought it was before December 6th.
Okay. And do you recall how she was physically after starting the Seroquel?
Awful.
How so?
That was really where her big spiral started. She started to lose a lot of weight, and she became very depressed, and she was having a really hard time.
And did she describe to you some thoughts or feelings that she was having at that time?
Yeah, she started to say she was suicidal.
And was that in December of 2022?
I think so, yeah.
And when she told you she was suicidal, did you ask her if she had a plan on how to kill herself?
Yes.
And what was her response?
She said no.
And did she ever mention a specific way or plan she had to kill herself to you?
No.
And at some point in time, did she tell you that this was the first time she had had suicidal thoughts?
I don't know if she mentioned it was the first time or not. I just remember her saying she had them.
Had you ever heard her say that to you before, that she was having suicidal thoughts?
No.
Did you own at that time a Surface Pro, a type of tablet that works as a laptop?
Yeah.
And who had access to that laptop?
We both did.
Okay. You and Lindsay?
Yeah.
And going back to August 22nd, 2022, did you click on a link on that Surface Pro that was titled Methods of Suicide?
Not that I recall.
And August 22nd, 2022, that was before Lindsay had been on any medications, as far as you know, correct?
Correct.
Going back to December, she's told you that she's having these thoughts. what's your reaction when she tells you that she's having these suicidal thoughts?
I just wanted to support her. I asked those questions back to her, and her mother was coming up pretty regularly anyways, so we let them know, and we just try to be supportive.
Did she also tell you at that time, at the beginning of December, that she was having some other intrusive thoughts?
Yeah.
Is that how she described them or how you described them, intrusive thoughts?
I would say both.
Okay. And when she told you that she was having intrusive thoughts, did you ask her what they were?
Yeah.
And what was her response?
She described thoughts of hurting the kids, or them having some sort of ailment. So like she was very worried that Cora had, whenever she had a stomach ache, she became overly worried that she was, had like a liver problem or something much more dramatic than it was.
Okay. But going back to that first part, she said she had thoughts of harming the kids. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And did she tell you whether or not she had specific thoughts of how she would harm the kids?
No.
And she didn't describe that as hearing this external voice telling her to harm the kids, correct?
Correct.
She told you she was having intrusive thoughts herself of harming the children, correct?
Correct.
And did you ask her how she was going to harm the kids?
I didn't ask it in that way. It was the same thing. I said, do you have a plan, and is it disturbing to you? And she said no, and then she said yes. And
let me go back for a minute there. You said, do you have a plan? And she said no. What was the second part of the question?
I said, do you find it disturbing?
Okay.
And she said yes. And she described it as really the way she was describing it as something that might happen to the kids.
So it was more something might happen than she might do something. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And did she tell you how long she had those thoughts for?
She didn't give a duration.
And how many times did she tell you this, that she had thoughts of harming the kids?
A couple times.
And was that a couple times over the course of a night or two in December?
Yeah.
And as a result of her telling you this, that she had thoughts of harming the kids, what did you do?
Her parents came up, and I think I asked her at some point, do you feel like you need to be kept away from them? And she said no. And then, it was very confusing because a minute later she was making them lunch or playing with them or, getting them ready for bed or whatever it was.
So it was confusing in that she wasn't physically harming them at the time, but had these thoughts. Is that what you're saying?
Right. I never saw Lindsey harm the kids.
And did you also, as a result of these statements, suggest an appointment with nurse practitioner Gelada?
It wasn't as a result of these statements. That appointment was set up because we were at her parents' house in Wallingford for Thanksgiving, and she just described how she was feeling on the medication, and she felt that she was addicted to them.
Was that the benzodiazepines that she thought she was addicted to?
Primarily, and then she was taking Seroquel at the same time, and she might have been taking Trazodone or Remeron. I'm not sure.
Okay. Do you recall testifying previously that I called her parents to come up to stay with us, and I told her that I asked her who her doctor was because I was very concerned at this point. She was prescribed 10 different medications in just over 2 months, so it didn't make sense to me. And then you said, so after her parents came up, she said, I have a remote meeting with Rebecca Gelada, and you said, no, it has to be in person.
Yeah, I felt like it had to be in person because I just felt like there was a disconnect. I felt like we could figure it out, whatever was going on. Mm-hmm. So it seemed like most of her telehealth appointments were pretty quick, and there just wasn't like a lot of attention
Were
And
you present for these telehealth visits?
only a few of them,
Okay.
and they were after that meeting with Gelada.
Okay. And that appointment in person with Gelada was December 6th, 2022. Is that correct?
That sounds correct.
So the thought of harming the kids was after Thanksgiving, but before December 6th. Is that correct?
That sounds correct.
Were you concerned for the kids' safety at that time?
No, I wasn't,
And why not?
because she wasn't showing any intention of harming the kids.
And she told you she didn't have a plan. Is that correct?
Correct.
Now, directing your attention to December 15th, 2022, did Lindsey go to Mass General Hospital to the emergency department that day?
Yeah.
Okay. And why was that?
I remember the reasoning being she told her dad that she wanted to commit suicide. And then she said to me, I told my dad I want to die, and it didn't bother me at all.
And as a result of those statements, you brought her, or did she bring herself to Mass General?
I think I brought her that time.
And at Mass General, she saw medical staff, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And did they recommend to her some type of admission to McLean Hospital?
I remember there was one doctor who was in favor of that, and there were two others who were more in favor of a day program.
And did they give you information about a specific day program?
Yeah, it was women and infants in Providence.
And at that time, when Lindsey was saying that she was suicidal, was she asked if she had a plan?
By the doctors.
Or by you?
I was always checking in with her, and she never told me that she had a plan. I'm not sure what the doctors asked her.
Okay. And after being at Mass General on December 15th, did she go to Women and Infants Hospital in Rhode Island to attempt to get into their postpartum program?
She was already in. She went in as scheduled.
Okay. And but she didn't remain in, correct? She was just there for a day?
Correct.
Okay. And did she go by herself? Did you go with her?
I dropped her off, and then I took Dawson skiing.
Okay. And at some point in time, did Lindsey reach out to you to say she wasn't staying at the program and to come pick her up?
She actually said that the providers at that program suggested to her that she call me and have her come get picked up, and then that I should go in and meet with the providers.
Okay. And then after you picked her up, she was no longer in the program at that point, correct? At Rhode Island Women and Children's, right?
Well, we discussed it with the doctors, and their recommendation was that the program wasn't right for her.
Right. And so you guys returned home, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And during this time frame in December, Lindsey's still working out at the Kingsbury Club, correct?
That might be true. I don't recall exactly, but yeah.
Do you recall her going to the Kingsbury Club on December 6th, 13th, 16th, 17th, or 18th?
I mean, I believe that can be true. Yeah, I don't recall those exact dates, but yeah.
At this time when she's saying that she's feeling suicidal, she's telling you she doesn't have a plan, correct?
Mm.
She's no longer saying she has any thoughts of harming the children, correct?
Correct.
She's still bringing the children to doctor's appointments during that time, right?
Yeah.
Do you recall her bringing Callan and Dawson to the doctors on December 2nd when they weren't feeling well?
Yeah,
And then she was able to call the doctor's office on December 27th and make an appointment for Callan and Cora when they weren't feeling well. Do you remember that?
yeah.
Okay. And take them to the doctor, I believe with you, correct?
Maybe, I don't know.
And then on December 30th, she was able to take Callan to the doctor that day as well and interact with the staff. Is that correct?
Probably.
Then you returned to Mass General Hospital, the emergency department, on December 31st. Is that correct?
Yes.
And why did you go back on the 31st?
Because she was still talking about thoughts of suicide, and I was exhausted. I said, I think it's time to go to McLean, and we didn't have a diagnosis, so we just didn't really know what was wrong. And I think for me, I was hoping that McLean could really evaluate her and try to figure out the best path forward.
Okay, so the path to getting to McLean was to go to the emergency department at Mass General and be referred to McLean. Is that correct?
Yes.
Were you aware that night while at the hospital, Lindsey was taking selfies?
No.
To submit these two photos as the
Right, that may be admitted, or they may be admitted.
Can you exhibit me taking a selfie at the hospital? Is that correct?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
And then the second page is just her legs in the doorway. Is that correct?
Yep.
As a result of going to Mass General and telling them about her suicidal thoughts, was she transferred to McLean Hospital?
Yeah.
Okay. And did you stay with her throughout that transfer process, or were you able to?
I was not able to. For some reason, they transfer. I don't know if they do this with all patients, but she was transferred at 3 a.m.
Okay. And so she reached McLean in the early morning hours of January 1st then of 2023. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And did you visit her at McLean Hospital?
Yeah.
How often did you see her there?
I think I was able to go twice, or maybe 3 times.
Okay. And do you remember, what visiting hours were or what hours you visited?
I don't remember exactly, but it was, something like 2 to 6. And I think there were morning hours, but you couldn't just go anytime.
You couldn't or could?
You could not.
Okay. And so you, out of the few days that she was there, 5 days she was there, you visited 2 or 3 times. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And while you were there with her, did Lindsey talk to you about the treatment that she was receiving at McLean Hospital?
She told me about her experience. It didn't really seem like she was getting any treatment.
Okay. Did she tell you that she wasn't really getting any treatment or wasn't getting as much care or treatment as she wanted?
Well, I think by the 3rd day, I said, what have the doctors said? And she said, I haven't met with the doctor. The challenge was she arrived on a Saturday, and then I think Monday was an observed holiday, so she didn't see a doctor until Tuesday. So until then, she was coloring and playing with clay and going for walks.
Were you aware that she was seen by a resident, a doctor, the first 2 days she was there, and then an attending on the 3rd day that she was there?
No.
Were you aware that she was seen by a licensed social worker, group therapist, and other mental health workers every day while she was there?
Yeah, I didn't get any updates.
Were you aware that she was offered one-on-one therapy by unit staff every day that she was there?
No.
Did you know that she participated in group therapy on January 1st for 45 minutes, a session about illness and symptom management?
I was aware of some group activities. I didn't know the details of it.
And were you aware that she participated in 2 group therapy sessions, one for 45 minutes and one for 50 minutes, one on self-compassion and one on illness and symptom management on January 3rd?
I wasn't aware of the subject of any of the meetings now.
Were you aware that she declined further group therapy and treatment in the afternoon of January 3rd?
No.
Were you aware that on January 4th, she participated in a group for 40 minutes called medication management?
No.
Were you aware that she participated in a group on January 5th on expressive therapy for 45 minutes?
No.
And were you aware that she declined further treatment 2 times on January 5th, one to attend group therapy and one to attend a session on cognitive behavioral processes?
No.
Were you aware that Lindsey asked the doctors to be discharged on the 6th, Friday the 6th, because she wanted to go to Cora's birthday party on the 7th?
Not that I recall.
Were you aware, or did Lindsey tell you that she then asked the doctors to discharge her on January 5th because she wanted to go home and get ready for the party?
I wasn't aware of Lindsey asking the doctors to be discharged.
Okay. Were there any insurance issues in terms of insurance refusing to pay for her stay at McLean Hospital?
We didn't really get to that point.
You weren't advised by the social worker or any staff there that there were any issues with your insurance, is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct, but I wouldn't have cared either.
Would you have just paid for it if needed?
I would have paid anything, yeah.
Ms. Sprague, is this a good time to break?
Yes.
All right, so members of the jury, we're going to break for the afternoon recess. We'll see you back here about 2 o'clock, okay?
All rise. We're going to close the notebooks, place them on your chairs.
Okay. So they're breaking for lunch. So I'm going to go ahead and end this live. And I think we all are experiencing the same thing. I think we're all a little confused, right? The closing of his eyes on that question. Yeah, there's something, right? It is just very confusing. Now, I will say this, okay? So she's sort of been described as high energy, very focused. She gets a lot done. She's a overachiever kind of person. Those type of people are often extroverts. So I don't know if she was an extrovert back in before all this happened. But it's not unusual for someone who's really extroverted to end up with a spouse who is very quiet and sort of lets the extrovert take over and lead, right? That would explain why maybe he seemed a little uninvolved, like he wasn't real sure of what she was experiencing. But let me say this, okay? It is the norm, not the exception, that in these psychiatric treatment facilities, or even the intensive outpatient types of programs, it's not unusual to have at least half of the group asking for discharge. They don't want to be there. They don't need to be there. They've got other things to do that are more important. Like there's a lot of reasons that they have for wanting to be out. And that's not unusual. That is, when you do that kind of work, you expect people to be like that. But it's not the patient that's making the decision. It's the doctor. It's the facility that makes a decision. And they're aware when they're making that decision, if we let this person leave the program, are we assuming liability for their behavior? And we need to be careful. So the things she's asking him have so far they've not been strong enough to sway my opinion. Yeah, nobody wants to be there. Thank you, just me. Exactly. No one wants to do it. And then when you start feeling better and you realize that it's working, then you say, this isn't my favorite place to be, but I need to do the work so that when I get out, I'm a stronger person and I can go back to my life. So there's a transition that happens, but the people that first come in, they don't want to be there and they will ask to leave. Some will even get angry and demand it and say, there's nothing wrong with me. I don't have any reason to be here. So I think my takeaway is so far the prosecutor has said nothing to change my mind. And she has said many things to just royally make me mad. Like when he said, she didn't want to go back to work because she didn't want to leave her child, her newborn. She said it was unnatural for a new mother to be away from the baby, which how many women have that belief? She was saying, I don't want to leave my baby. She wasn't saying, I don't want to go back to work. And this prosecutor was 100% misrepresenting that, totally misrepresenting it. And here's my question. If you have to misrepresent the evidence, then maybe you don't have a good case. You know what I mean? All right. There you go. Just me. Good. All right. Okay. So I'm going to get me some lunch. You guys run get you some lunch. And then I will see you later this afternoon. Thank y'all for being here. I appreciate it. Talk to you later. Bye.